It is 6 o'clock and Dylan is going to lead us in the pledge of allegiance. All right. That's it. I would establish a quorum. All your board of directors are here this evening, and just want to say thank you for that. Comments for the record. I've got a couple for you from the president. I just want to thank everybody that provided feedback through our surveys and then also at our chat meetings. Your feedback is extremely valuable, and although not everyone participates and not everyone comes or takes part in the survey, hopefully we're providing better and timely information to our community along the way. So don't forget, our next coffee with the community manager and president will be on October the 22nd at 4:30 here in the assembly room. It's available. And then 9 o'clock on Thursday morning, October 23rd. And we do them the week before the board meeting, so that way you have the agenda if you'd like to come and ask us questions. Plus, also in October and November, we have a bunch of different workshops that are available to the members to attend, so please do so. One of those meetings, at least one of them I know during October, will be regarding budget pressure, so please attend. And last note, if you didn't know it, but the Saturday before Halloween is always our fall festival and trunk or treat. And so that is October the 25th. It starts at 4 o'clock. And it is great for the kids to come out because there's a family costume contest, a kids costume contest, and lots of candy to be had. So please come for that October 25th. Are there any comments from our members? Seeing none out there, I will read you one. I did get an email. And I don't use the lot number, but I know we can find it. John Kalina. Somebody laughed right there. I'm going to tell him again. So, what he said was, while on all for amenities, it appears the board is throwing more and more money to pickleball without the pickleballers adding anything more than their original contribution. It's exceeded the original cost by so much, and I think that pickleballers should be taking care of the new costs instead of the POA. We're unable to attend the meeting, but please share this with the board during public comments. Do we know? All right. Seeing no other comments that are there, the president will take a motion for approval of our minutes. Absolutely. Thank you, Ronnie. Yeah. In Larry seconds, Ryan. Don't get it. Is there any discussion, any additions or deletions to the minutes we need to add? No correct. Okay, no corrections, and so all those in favor of the minutes as presented, raise your hand. And so you have 8 to 0, if you will, and 1 abstain because they weren't here. All right. Okay, Dan, I think you're up for treasurer's update for us. And I will ask, can you all see the screen? So I'm trying to sit to the side so you can see it. So if you can't, let me know, and I can do some more. We can move Dylan out of the way or whatever you can do there. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Nancy. Treasurer's report for this month. There's definitely some good news in here, and definitely a couple trends that are a little bit interesting to think about and think about in context for budgeting and planning for 2026. So overall, we the month down 46,000. A lot of that is because expenses were over. There's 2 months in a row that we've had some unexpected expenses that cause us to be over. The good news is year to date, we've been well under the budget, mostly because of salaries. We've not had 100% utilization of all the headcount that we had budgeted for the year. But as you can see at this top level, we'll go a little deeper. We pretty much used up that underage, so we only have $12,000 to the good at the moment. So if we continue to see some of this unexpected expenses, we're going to have to make, and the POA merchant is going to have to make some more difficult decisions to make sure we end up the year in a balanced position. So, as you can see, I mean, the revenue number was pretty much spot on, a little bit lower on lodge, food and beverage. That's, again, not a surprise given how we budgeted for the lodge. I continue to give Jeremy, Jamie, Ronnie, and the lodge committee, and the rest of the staff here great kudos. We had 1 month where actually cash flow positive, but we'll still end probably 80 grand-ish away from even, which is dramatically better than any year probably ever. So that, we challenged the lodge to break even, came pretty close, drove a lot of revenue. When I looked at it last year, I was like, there's no way that would happen. And they've really risen to the challenge. So we're in pretty good shape overall. Just, to me, as I talk about 2026, this year we said we wanted the lodge to break even. Is that still something that all of us want to think about for 2026? Is that something we want to think about again, or we want to take a different approach? On the expense side, again, a little bit different story, where we spent a little bit more money than was budgeted for the month. Can we go one more slide? There we go. So the biggest piece on the overage was within golf. We see some different items. There's a $15,000 repair at the very bottom, if you can see that. That was obviously unforecasted, something that had to be done from an irrigation perspective. And then water, 19,000 over. I'm real surprised that the water number is going to be much higher than we anticipated. So, just to hit that, right, I think with the new water rates, it's going to be somewhere around $50,000 more than we budgeted for water. So, I know I cried when I saw my water bill, but it's nowhere near $50,000, thankfully. So, but that's what the impact is on the POA. And if the the rate goes up again, that's order of magnitude what the impact is to the POA. We have to find $50,000 somewhere else that we have to cut. So I want to stop there. Knowing that we're about to go into budget season at this high level, where I know there's a lot more detail in the package, what questions do you guys have about this?
Yeah, you saw that irrigation repairs. If you look at the golf course and the irrigation system out there, I concur things that it's going to need attention, and we don't know exactly what dollar amount that is, but we just better make sure we've got a good handle on that going into 26 in the budget. Probably monthly amounts, for repairs, especially during the summer months. Probably should do it, in the less busy months when the golf course is not being played as much. And we get some of those areas that they know are problems fixed.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's over the next couple of months, we need to work with Brian and his staff and to figure out what we need for next year. All right.
Dan and Ronnie, I'll put you into the scoop. How much of our budget deficit on the golf course is associated with the reduction in guest rounds this year? I mean, that seems to have come up in the past.
I don't think it's that great because we had fewer guests. We're charging a little more now, so that helps. And we're anticipating that the R3 guests, once we approve the rates that have been recommended, set the R3 committee or modify them. I think that's going to help significantly.
So, Larry, I think we got in about $100,000 in guest fees last year. I think we're on pace to do roughly that this year. But it's a good thing to think about, what will that impact be, going forward. I know that you're taking some things out of that, from a revenue perspective, so it's not all going to the O&M budget. So I think, we have to think through and act as we get into next year, that there's going to be more variance on revenue versus expense of the golf course. Not huge, but a little bit because of how we're handling the gas fees now.
Just on the green fees in general, that's a net number, is that correct? Okay.
Well, it's 100,000 I quoted obviously last year's calculated this year, so 5%. So overall, you see the balances are in good shape. It looks a little bit different for some because of the golf course reserve being pulled out. But overall, here's where we are. Rich has done some good work. President Foy has done some good work looking at how we format some of the documents for golf course for RF and LRF to make it easier to calculate our funding levels and project them going forward. In the past, the version the inflation numbers, or the inflator in there, much higher than it should have been. So it made some funding levels weird. But now we've got that solved. So as of next board meeting, the treasurer's report, we'll be able to add a funding percentage for our quick reserve fund. Yeah, I keep hitting on interest. That is something that we're going to budget for next year. That's the non-budgeted item this year. So we'll have more revenue to budget against, but Rich's job was a little bit harder because, we can't, it's going to end up being budgeted in a specific place. So we're going to take that through. Initiation fee, which we'll talk about more when we go through the SAT survey. Yeah, I think we're still above the condition there. 160,000 for August. So, over 200,000 for the year is a nice benefit that we can think about again during the budget process. How we can allocate that $200,000 since that goes to O&M and or CARF. So we can use the money and you all can just. Yeah, so we've spent some money in our overall, overall account balances are down, our spending and a lot more money being spent on part 3 since that money has been allocated separately for construction. It's still being all maintenance money segregated, but obviously the construction money is getting lower since construction is getting pretty much. And the last thing is the absolute balances going through this. I don't have any particular to point out. One thing I did point out last month that if you want to roll through the steps that we did have to sell the CD a little early because we had a little bit of unexpected bill coming in. So we ended up redeeming one of the 13-week CDs. So we lost a little bit of money from that. So talk to Chris about some of that. A lot of it was just timing and not the right forecasting for that time. But also, if we take money out the fidelity account, you don't have to worry about any kind of through that moves. So that's all I wanted on to cover on the treasurer's report. Is there any other questions and thoughts from all of you? Great, thank you.
Other questions? No. Okay. All right, moving on your agenda. The first thing under committee and business updates is to approve some committee changes. You have in your packet information on adding 2 members to committees. Tina Weiser to Covenant and Bylaw, Enid Daly, Elijah Tavern, and then our historian, Corky Cahoon, is asked to be removed from Covenant and Bylaws Committee, but he doesn't realize he'll always be an advisor on the side, so just let you know. Establishing it for now. Anyway, those are the 3 changes that are on there. Is there a motion to approve those? Chris? Sure.
Didn't hear you.
He's right. Sure.
You'll go, Steve Miles, and that's being removed in part recreation committee.
And you not here, okay. Can we add C to the Parks and Recs just to make sure that I didn't miss that along the way? Is that okay? Chris, it was your motion. Is that okay?
Are you taking Steve off?
Yes. We're removing Steve from that Parks and Recreation Committee. All right. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just real quick, I want to say first of all, welcome to Tina, but I recognize the team. I'm serving a couple of times, we served on the Covenant Bylaws Committee for about a decade, I think, or more. Chaired it, and has been a great member, as I said, as Nancy went on, the story of the community, so I'm looking for this long running service to the community.
Anything else? All right. And what the motion is before you, all those in favor, raise your hand. Anybody disapprove? I didn't see any extra hands. All right, so we've approved those changes to our committees. Next week, David is the Vision and Mission Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you. This will be quick. So the Vision Mission group has been working hard. We tried to pull every single lever we could to try to communicate, provide information out to the members around what this is, and to try to get as many people as possible to provide input. So the first thing that we did after the initial communications with the community and constant contact was to field a survey on September 1st. Great. As of this morning, there was 285 responses. So we have another 10 days or so in a month to get more responses than we can get, the better. But I just want to say that the community really kind of looked at every possible scenario and communicating. We saw limited sheets in the dining room. You see the information up front. Try to put information out on the gate signs. So we've had weekly updates as we're shooting for the site survey. So hopefully people are aware of it. Something like different concept than site survey. So maybe we won't get the same level of response to given the site survey, but hopefully we will. The other piece is we're ready to start doing focus groups, but we are missing some names. So we did reach out to all the committee members, or excuse me, committee chairs, and to anyone that was listed as a contact for a club within the lodge list of approved folks to try to get some people to volunteer, at least get someone from each of the clubs to volunteer, each of the committees to volunteer. So if you're a head of a committee and haven't heard from you, I'd love to. If you can't participate, it's probably not appropriate for you to participate as one of the separate session just for the board. But if you have someone else, team or community, you can personally participate in those focus groups, please. But we definitely see if we can get a few more people who want to see effective focus groups. We also reached out to the member realtors that live in Lake Kiowa. The goal is to have separate focus groups just for the members, just to get their unique opinions and perspectives. So far we've got some feedback from them a lot of participants. I think that'll be an interesting session. You know, as we get the focus group scheduled and we're keeping up to date, and this survey will be out there until the last day of September. So I think early October we'll get some information. We'll share that with you as well. Thank you.
So whatever you do the dates, you put them in constant contact or you let people know? For the focus groups?
Yeah, we're working with people individually.
Okay.
So, and it's just, you know, if you don't get any people interested, we'll probably go back out through cost of contact. It's also open. We'll see, we'll give it another week or so, see how it's not on this.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Rich, I think you're on the senior annual member satisfaction.
That's true. And again, just wanted to thank all the, we have over 420 people respond in total. And then a few of the questions were comment questions, we had over 1,000 comments. I think a really good response. And like Ann said, hopefully we can continue that, moving forward. It's like a lot of the comments we had, you know, everybody loves the community, the lake, golf, just a lot of repetitive comments. A really good, overall satisfaction. First question was a 0 to 10 scale of how likely you are to recommend Lake Kiowa, to friends, families, or other people, just to recommend this community. So broke this down into 3 categories, basically detractors, negatives, passives, people kind of hedging a little bit, and promoters. So promoters were given 9 to 10, passive 7 to 8, detractors from 0 to 6. You can see promotion was over 50%, 53% for the promotion, and had another 30% kind of just a little bit below that, kind of just a tick below. So this was a complete breakdown. What we go off is we're trying to get as an MPS net promoter score. That's kind of a standardization score for this type of survey. So our MPS score was a 36, which is very good. You can see like anything over 0 is good because you're in a positive. What our goal will probably be is something over 50, which would be excellent. Anything higher, like 80, is just, that's like world class standards. But I think starting out with a 36 and trying to get our goal to get over that 50 would be something to strive for. Second question was, tell us why you gave that rating.
Rich, can we go back one second? So, and I've been working with net promoter scores for 15 plus years. So for the first time around to get a 36 is actually really good. Now when you look at another 22.5% into 8s, you know, that's usually the people that are, I would have given you a 10, but right, I would have given you a 10, but the water rate is way too high. I would have given you a 10, but we don't have new top mark or whatever the top figure is, or their in their interest is. But maybe that's how you kind of focus on this, is think about how can you get those 7s and 8s and 9s and 10s. So if you go through the rest of the survey, I think that is pretty helpful. When I think about net promoter score, I mean, there's very few companies, as Rich said, that get in those really high levels. I mean, when I looked at some of this, I mean, the highest I ever heard of was Tesla at one point. It's come down since then, but it had a 97 at one point, so that's pretty impressive. You know, everyone was 9 or 10 except for 3, or 3 that were 0 to 6. But T-Mobile last time, according to the research I did, it was 82. When I left Fidelity Investments, they're at 84. USAA is 75. Amazon is 73. So to get about 50 is, you know, if that is something that we're going to make a goal of, that will put us in some pretty, you know, good company.
Yeah, so if you just get some people, we get 30% of assets, then we get half of those people to move up to 9 or 10, be over the 50% score. So yeah, and, basically, why did they give that rating? There were multiple themes, most of which were positive concerns, things that, kind of divided people. Request governors could see the strong positives, like in that little cloud, word cloud I had, people love the community, safety, their neighbors, and all the amenities. Some of the concerns mentioned too is you have a big demographic of people concerned about dues, fees, and some, just security enforcement, getting citations. We've had some of those comments. And then there's, we talked about pickleball also, but people divided between golf and lake. And then, everybody loves amenities and, they want more. Like I said, it's going to give you a 10 if you didn't have a dog park. And then, about the POA and the board itself, trying to improve that transparency and communication for a lot of the common themes. And again, we had 361 comments, so that was a pretty wide range. The third question was, how satisfied are you overall experience living in Lake Kiowa? There were 416 respondents, and I kind of blended together the very satisfied or satisfied and the very dissatisfied, satisfied. So just being in the satisfied and very satisfied was all 94.6%, basically generally satisfied with Lake Kiowa, which is an extremely high split. Next question, number 4, 381 comments again. Again, a lot of these key themes and comments kind of repetitive. Everybody loves the community and the people, love their neighbors, feel safe. Some of the concerns at the same time are, little cliques or generational, we have peak demographics of people between younger and older. People think it should be 55 and older, community retirement, amenities and activities. People love all the amenities. And again, that same concern between golf and lake, and the same financial concerns about dues. It's just the cost of living out here, and the same comments about security. They love security, they love to feel safe, they appreciate security at the same time. Sometimes I think they overstep their bounds a little bit.
Just before you go on, so one of the things when I went through it is people don't understand the water SUD versus the POA. I think, a lot of the comments made me believe that people thought they were one and the same. And that we, as a Kiowa board, have an opportunity to have input on water rates, which is obviously not true. So that was one of the things that stuck out, is trying to help people understand, not that anyone's happy with increasing water rates, but what is the POA's responsibility versus the SUD's responsibility?
In home values. We don't set the home value rate was a big sticker out or a tax. Yeah, taxes are large.
So you
A lot of people had comments for the board on the value of a home. I mean, we don't set home values, so I don't know how that would be considered. A lot of those, some of these buckets, Rich was saying. And taxes, I mean, we don't have a tax rate, but they complain about taxes. We don't set it.
So moving on, same thing about POA and the board. Something that's very well run, they appreciate us. And then same issues of transparency, and inconsistent, special interest in how we allocate funds, our spending. Some people just don't feel it's the best decision making. Lake and environment, everybody thinks the lake's a treasured asset. Major part of being Lake Kiowa is the word lake. Lake is perceived as also being neglected. The general overall upkeep of it. And again, had comments of, why aren't we dredging, et cetera. Infrastructure, there's always improvements underway, but it's never enough. You can see all the places we're lacking. Again, trying to catch up with everything, so they see these negatives all the time. But again, just a lot of great comments all over the place, a lot of positive, negatives, people in the middle. Next question was, again, do you feel a strong sense of community here? Again, another huge rating. Those, strongly agrees over 50 or over 40%. The combination of agree, disagree, agree 94%. It's a great sense of community here. Amenities available here meet expectations. Again, over 400 people responding. This one had 84% agree. Next one, the POA board. Communicate effectively, consistently. The communication is on high on the agree, strongly agree, probably lacking a little bit, but overall still 84.7% agree. POA board decisions, best interest in the community. This is actually the lowest score of the survey. Still 75% are in the agree area. Over 50% agree, only below 10% strongly agree, but 75% agree, but disagrees. That's the highest number we have in the survey. Question 9 was a comment. Question 289 comments. Again, very repetitive with some of these themes of positives and concerns lodged. Good service atmosphere. I think staff's doing a great job and saw the improvements. Concerns, some people still have an issue sometimes with the food or what the menu is. And then you have staffing, sometimes we're a little short-handed, you need the service to expect. And not only Monday closures, but some other days, some are hours, etc. A lot of comments of people thinking just the lodge you open. POA and board governance transparency. Again, a lot of people appreciate what we do, how we do try to communicate, a lot of people do some communication. Some still feel lack of transparency. And again, because special interests dominated. Lake, again, people looking for the lake to be dredged, general rate maintenance, issues with weight notes. Again, it's the core of what the economy is. Security, kind of the comments that we appreciate security, rather be less of an enforcement, Russian issues. Same issues with infrastructure, concerns again, everybody loves the amenities, and just concerns about upkeep again. And then the financial concerns, the dues go up, it's good value, but just the rising costs are kind of there. Question number 10 concerned how the QA response to questions, comments, or service. Had a pretty good score of 89.5, very strongly agree. Quality of food and beverage lodge, 84%, agree, disagrees, and nothing good support. Staff itself, professionalism, charity, and staff, everybody loves it. They're doing a great job. 96% says action. General atmosphere appearance a lot, 94%. Then to golf, condition of the course. Still over a 90 score, 91%. Really satisfied with the golf course. The experience of the golf course is over 92%. Satisfied. Agree. Pro shop amenities, that drops down a little bit, from 80 to 81.6. Expectations, a lot of people are again, they're not strongly agreed and agree. So some people there that much trying to get this higher. Question 17 was back to the taking. Your condition of the safety of 83%, again, getting into the shallow water, bait boats, condition of the water. How we manage that, it's a POA, fishing, moving, how it's used, it's 80 bucks, doesn't even come close to it. But then again, the lake is such a part of the community, 95% agree in that aspect. So what we use is, breaking down the question of those ABI categories, events. When we publish these, we publish these quarterly, along with financial information. We have a baseline. So lodge overall, if you blended all the lodge questions together, it was over 91%. Golf was over 88%, and lake was over 86%. So as we move forward, next steps, a lot of, especially the comments that we received, established priorities, how can we address a lot of these issues, but also the big comments we got, how do we reinforce those? As a board, as a KOA managed, create some action items, and hopefully we'll have all that information together and do more of an in-depth presentation to the community, ask some questions, get everybody involved. And that's what I'm asking for right now, is basically, I'll be doing the presentation November 15th. Looks like the best date, October's going pretty full. That same day, I'll actually do a November presentation presentation. The questions, comments?
Rich, do you think we'll have priorities and action items before the membership town hall, or is that something we're just going to present the results and have a discussion and then focus on the priorities?
well, I would like to try to get some action items together and try to resolve some of this with the board and the POA itself, some of the things we can do to at least address those concerns and those comments a bit at the town hall. I don't think we have everything buttoned up, but I think we need to be able to address some of the comments that they had.
I think that makes sense, but having the opportunity to have Jeremy, this folks saying, Sandy's calls, that would be really helpful. Mostly, seasonal, like, that's pretty fun. So, obviously, it would work.
Anything else, Bruce?
So,
Richard asked you to approve during the town hall on November 15th. Do I have a motion for that? Sorry, November. Cecil, second, all right. You have a motion before you to approve town hall meeting for the survey results on November the 15th. That evening, would that be correct? Okay, all right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? All right. Yeah, I said it, and you approved November the 15th. Let's see. I don't see Jim Fox, so Rich, are you next?
Thanks, Canada. Pickleball courts. Last conversation, maybe breaking their ground first week of October. We've gotten the foundation plan in. This is our plan, and then this is the plan we received from the engineer. So what they're basically going to do is each double court is poured independently, and then the pavilion area and the sidewalk will come back and get poured in. One thing we're looking at, Jim Fox and myself, and brought this up at one of the other presentations, was to get a third party, since this is the most important part of the pickleball course, is the foundation of concrete. Make sure that everything's done properly. We've got also one party from Paradigm who did the soils reports for here and the front end transaction. To do quality control, pre-inspection, after inspection, and check the concrete pours themselves to make sure everything's done properly. Proposals for $6,900. Like to add it to part of expenses for the project. That'll bring the entire approved monies to $397,000 approximately, so just under 400. The project itself is 380,000 exchange structure. So this will be this only about $10,000 or $12,000 of contingency money, but just to make that clear. And then in park funds, you can see the park list and have it front of you. We're getting pretty tight. And all our funds right now. But I think this is very well spent money.
Is there a motion to approve?
Just one comment, Rich. Isn't it true that with the change courts that we have now, that was a huge problem and continuing cost because we did do the foundation examination and
I believe so. I wasn't present for that. That seems to be the issue now.
So I just had a question. That doesn't come from the construction company.
Well, they're going to do theirs, but we want a third party to come in and verify their work.
Is there, all right, Chris moves to approve, not to exceed, is that correct? $6,900 for the testing of the construction materials, quality control. Is there a second? Ron, second. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. And yes, approved not to exceed $6,900. Okay, turn on your again. Or I can do you. Sure.
You kind of pushed last meeting or so on this too, just totally for doing these things. It's just another $7,000 here, They said they couldn't raise money, then they got 20,000. some of these costs, again, this is like 10, 15 grand here, 10, 15 grand here, just keeps adding up over time. So I'm not a construction guy, so I'm the guy that can help, but some of this stuff we need to better run than the last years. Just like.
And I'd also say that, you're pushing the $400,000 mark, and so if there's a cost overrun in any form or fashion, that construction, my guess would be that construction stops until the money comes forward. Just guessing.
No, that's the reason. I think we probably have to.
Okay, all right. Rich, we'll do the next one.
Sure, this was just a discussion item, basically trying to schedule a workshop regarding the lake items and the watercraft restrictions, watercraft registration, and operation too, I believe, from the lake rules that were reviewed, to have a workshop session with the board to try to finalize the language and move forward with this. And I think the proposed date was October 1st. You didn't have a time on that? Was there a specific time on
We're
that?
looking at 6:30 that evening.
6:30, October 1st would be the motion.
Is there a motion? You want to make that motion for me? No,
I'll make you.
Okay.
We did like a workshop.
okay.
The workshop for October 1st, 2025 at 6:30 to discuss watercraft rules and restrictions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chris. Is there any discussion? I will give you a little discussion there. I did ask if we could do this, since there's a lot of passion around watercraft rules and restrictions, and I think it's important for the board to hear what our members say. Yes, we all bring member input to the table, but I think it's really good to be able to give them an opportunity, and we'll go from there. Okay, all right, all those in favor, raise your hand. All right, and we will have an October 1st at 6:30 watercraft rules workshop. All right, George, I think you're on for rules and procedures.
I'll just take this one too.
Oh, you got this? Okay, all right. Mark out.
We had approved for member review at the last board meeting, a few rules. A couple of them we still haven't to go until October to hit the 30-day minimum review time. So we had a couple of comments come back from safety and security meeting, a couple others. This one included addressing the interfering with employee. All the language was agreed to, but one issue corresponding to the harassment was to make the harassment a more severe penalty. So basically, in this one would be to revert back to the original rule and left the special penalty unchanged. So the revision here would actually to delete the revision of increasing the suspension days. And we can revise this and continue to send it out to the community for membership review.
Any questions on that? Comments?
Rich, I was the one that was kind of advocating for increasing the day, but it definitely makes sense when you put the two together that, I think Sean brought this up last time we reviewed this, to have a difference between this penalty and harassment, sexual harassment penalty. So that makes complete sense to me. If we do revert back, do we have to put it back out for community review, or is that since we're going back to the original language, or I don't know, I'm just having rules that I don't want to do anything.
It's going to continue going off for the next month regardless. So I'll just revise it going off to make sure that it's clear for what people see.
Okay, then October, we got the lesson. All right.
So can we do that the next couple of days, so that way that still has 30 days?
Correct.
Okay. Any other feedback, comments? All right. Everybody in favor of just those changes, pushing it forward? Okay, all right.
Yep.
We're gonna make a motion for that? Okay, so I have Chris and then Dan, how about that? Okay, but we're gonna move forward with those changes as Rich has outlined for interfering with an employee. All right, all those in favor? Raise your hand. All right, okay. The next one, Rich, you have approved that. 5-0.
Right, and then here's, the next one was the golf cart operation rule. The last sentence was presented, taken out, and at the last, board meeting, we actually put in, the last sentence back into the operation, which basically, stated that golf carts designed to seat 4 or more persons shall operate only on the cart paths and no crossovers. Yeah, speaking with Lauren, Brian, and some of the golf committee members and some other, members, this was actually intended to be taken out, and that Brian and Lauren feel that the 6-person golf carts they weigh about 50 pounds more than other golf carts, so there's no effect to it. So again, it was taken out originally on purpose, and at the board meeting it was put back in. So the motion is to take it back out again.
Any questions on that one? Sean's thinking. So is there a motion? And then we'll let Sean ask the question. So moved, Chris. Anybody else? Second? All right. I have a motion, second. Do you have questions?
I'm certainly defer to the golf professionals on what effect this has on the course, but I'm just wondering, is this going to conflict with the definition we have elsewhere? I should have looked.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other rule is on the width, so it's 52-inch width, and there's other restrictions, so this won't conflict with that.
Eric?
There we go. But is there still a restriction on the number of people? I mean, in the cart?
Yes, that all remains.
Okay.
Yes. No remains. Okay. All right. Any other questions? You have a motion and a second to approve crossing out the last part about the golf carts involve more than 4 people. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. We have approved that crossing out and then that last sentence removal, I guess is what it is. And then we'll move that forward then to Rich, correct? All right. It's the Rich show today, so now you're on community manager report.
Again, the first thing I'm asking for is some more money.
We're not going to have it the Rich show anymore.
This is from the Lake Management Reserve Fund, trying to ask for some additional funds, basically for an exploratory usability study. It's going to take some sediment samples and see if a few codes are adept at trying a new process. Do you want to take some of this?
Yeah, just an update. For the last 16 months, we've had 2 presenters in front of the committee. We're trying to think out of the box. These processes are not your traditional dredging, but it's sort of dive excavate out. There are processes that use solutions where it can provide back to you. And again, there's that for just the testing of the sediment samples, so we don't understand how much of our bottom, what we call buffers, versus organic and non-organic materials and silt. There are ways to get rid of that without doing physical dredging, and we don't want to do these tests because it would be a whole lot less expensive. We can program in place and get first step the testing.
Okay, I actually have some of the presentation on here. So what this process is called trimerate. Basically, you can see in not necessarily an aging process, but what happens to a lake, all their organic material builds up, basically creates that mud. So part of the other things you can do is, like Cecil said, normal dredging, you try the grass carp, there's some vegetation, and there's chemical processes that really don't solve this, what they call the eutrophication process. Just all that organic material basically sits there and it doesn't degrade at all. Basically, it's oxygen. So that's what trimerone does. It introduces oxygen into the sediments and it allows all the natural processes to occur to basically reduce that. So the organic material actually goes away. So the actual solids decrease. And at the same time, it improves the quality of the water as well. Clears the water. Some other things you add too as well as when planting some vegetation, but we'll see where that goes. That needs a little more study. That's the general process. And then this is just a case study. Their depths and everything was much greater than ours, but you can see the percent that they decreased. So we won't be looking at the same physical amount, but if we can decrease the organic matter, we can these send the sample back. Let's say there's a sort of organic matter, maybe we gain 6 inches out. So water depth increases 6 inches, and we don't have to do any dredging, and the water gets thin. So I think this would be a good thing to try to look into and see if it works for us.
Just say how long it takes to do X amount of whatever.
Well, a lot depends on the source samples, how much is organic. That's the scientific side of the section. This is a long-term program. We would look to do this ongoing. We would initially putting doses above the trimerone that attack the bump that's on the bottom and help take it down. As you take that level down, you're going to get more flow in. So you continue with lower doses. Every year you have a program and we would budget for this. Every year you spend X amount of dollars to do a process. Just like we now bridging the venture fund to put it on plan. This and it's a lot more.
When they do the sample testing, if they determine it's the percentage that they need for that particular mixture, then are they also taking like an idea of what the depth of that would be so that they would know, you said like foot, so whether it's 2 or 3 foot.
Yeah, they have one.
We have some idea. Yes, that the expenditure that we're looking at here, which I know excessively.
We don't, but we will. That's what we want to do. Source samples. They analyze the source samples. It's organic. It's inorganic complex. What's up? They've got maps that we have on that of where silt level have and I'm sure they run out some, but it was good estimate of where sit up on the sill. But in that sill, there's a portion of that organic, blood, and inorganic. So until we get that done, we don't have a true estimate of the
So it wouldn't be like the tires. I was checking. Oh, you can see the tires. Right, yeah. All right. Is there a motion to approve the expenditure and the amount you
If I could get 5,000, not to exceed, it went up about $500 from when I got an estimate to when I got the proposal. So.
is there a motion to approve that? Cecil? Chris? All right. So they approve, or they ask you to approve to spend, let's see, not to exceed $5,000 from the Lake Management Reserve Fund for that sample station to the state. Any other questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. You approve it, won't get that sediment testing. Not to exceed $5,000. 9-0. All right. Okay.
Next one is relation to the fire suppression system here at the lodge. The sprinkler closet is actually in the southwest rim. Some of that system is 5-year maintenance, scheduled maintenance, but there's also some other repair work to be completed. It's over $2,500, which is large, is $3,207.93 is the vote. That would be coming out of the O&M funds. And because we're getting so tight on the funds, just to bring that to your, knowledge again, some unexpected costs there, the budgets. And also, as I mentioned, James, a lot of these, estimates and contracts are getting longer, so I've been looking at all.
So is it a 5-year testing? Is that what I'm hearing for reading?
That's correct.
Okay. So this would be 4 or 5 years, or it would be?
It's the 5-year test, and another 5 years off to do some of the same thing, testing things.
Okay, so technically it's not next year, it must be up there.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve, not to exceed, what?
4,000.
4,000. And is there a second? For you, all right. And has, moved that we approve, actually, not to exceed $4,000. For the O&M budget for the James Lane Fire Protection for the suppression system. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, a question.
We do a 1-year inspection as well. This is 5-year in addition to.
They do periodic inspections as well. We have a 1-year inspection. They kind of just check the fire extinguisher with all of that stuff.
Yeah, we do a 1-year inspection. I'm just not familiar with this 5-year, maybe you're doing it for decade. I just don't realize it's the 5 years, so I'm just not familiar with the 5 years specifically. They definitely have every year. And
Yeah, we have the system for the hood as well. Here and here.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. All right, you've approved not to exceed $4,000 for that student for Rich. All right, you got some updates?
Just talk about Little Wolf Park, that's moving along. Golf course, Park 3 driving range. The arrangements in the playing surfaces are really looking well. Landscaping has been put in, so we're getting really close. And obviously, we have the opening ceremonies week of the 9th, 10th, and 11th, I believe. So just moving forward with those. And already we get, well, just moving forward, yeah, one estimate from the prairie to do the trail, but we'll have to put an RFP to get the trail done. As we get closer, we want to push that forward and make sure we get that walking trail put around. Which the funds have already been approved funds, those are already on carve.
Your signs look good, Little Wolf out there, you've seen it, you're by.
Yeah.
I do have a question, a prior board, if I remember correctly, approved that we would change that speed limit right there. Remember that?
I don't think it was approved, it was discussed, and then we discussed it again, and
We never approved it.
yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, just asking.
What we have there now, or was approved for that area, is a suggested 20 for around the curves. And then we proposed to go to 15, and then that didn't get approved.
Go for it.
Pickleball course we kind of addressed, but had attended, I thought it was going to be further out, but discussed with them, they gave breakground first week of October. So hopefully they stick to that. Silt basin sediment removal, put out a constant contact. You can see the long reach excavator at the number 3 bridge that's spotted the code. They started today excavating. They'll move to the other side, then the low water 2, and then down the low water 1. This whole process will probably take about a month. The last week will be removing the sediment. They're just leaving the sediment there, move on to the next slide. While that sediment dries, then they'll start removing the sediment as they go along from week to week. So you'll see that they're sitting there for a while.
Did I see that they were gonna expand number 2?
No, that was a previous proposal as well, but we're not expanding it. One thing we'll be looking at is something called silt traps. So as they excavate, they may give us some proposals to do silt traps. It's a smaller area to make it easier to remove the silt, so they have such a large area to remove.
Cecil?
And just a reminder, that's about $100,000 project that's going on, it's a board group, it comes out of now, but that'll be great, you know.
If you've driven through there lately, you could almost walk like 10 or 15 foot out.
Yeah, we'll go down.
Yes, but I mean, this, so there on the shallow. So,
Front entrance, we've had these discussions, the bid documents are completed, they sent a proposal, an AIA proposal to proceed as a contract administrator. James and I have taken a look at that, we're negotiating it. I may be coming back, they're supposed to get me a proposal, for additional funds to do the bidding process as opposed to doing it as a percentage fee to be determined, to have a fixed fee so we can at least control the costs. So hopefully I'll have that for the next meeting. And then you have a security report in there.
Going back. So the project updates are great. What are people's thoughts around taking a version of this and sending it out with constant contact to the treasury board, the group minutes? Can you putting a quick, easy, high-level project summary out there? I know that, again, looking at the SAP survey, it's like, where are they in the front entrance, those kind of things. If you're not paying attention, it's hard to understand. So to me, if there's every month there's a project overview or whatever the right words are, that would help, get the word out in the community that we haven't forgotten about the financials, we haven't forgotten about, some of these other things that are out there. Unless you're passionate about silts, right? Knowing what's going on in a retention pond, you won't notice unless you drive by. That kind of stuff.
Are you paying constant contact or communicate?
I'm open. I was definitely thinking, at least the constant contact, but now that we're making the one after the board meeting more robust with that treasury report and some of the other items, I think it would be nice to put there, but to me, if there's something to communicate, that makes sense too. So, I mean, whatever you all think is best, and I'm just trying to think that would be an easy way to help people understand that these are still ongoing, because even if they don't see visible progress.
And we've had again, security, public works, kind of updates, just bullet point things. We could kind of collaborate on those a little bit and maybe put those out too.
Or even out on the TVs out here, if you have scrolling PowerPoint presentation of those major projects that are, what status they're in.
We do know what's been approved because we get a report from you from a CARP perspective. So I think looking at the bigger ones like that would be, whether it's a scorecard or just a quick hit or at a glance, here's where we are. We moved this along. This has happened. We put security radios in or something like that. We're waiting on another construction, whatever. So, because I know in our chat meetings, the number one question was, when are the pickleball courts going to start construction? So I think that's obviously a big chunk of money. It's something we decided to do. So I would put. Okay. Anything else? Yeah. All right. Anything else from you, Rich?
Just since we're in the lodge too, lots of the cabinets are getting finished, so hopefully they'll be installed soon. They're getting painted right now, so hopefully they go in. All cleanup will be the 6th, 7th, 8th of November, I believe. Just a lot of those little items, same thing, we keep updating the community on all these things. Another thing I had in constant contact were the buoys around the low flow tower. So that went out in constant contact, but that's another item that we had discussed in here. So now those buoys are around there to kind of give a little buffer area. We discussed in security, as we discussed in here previously, so many phone calls. We had over 700 phone passes to security again this month. We're going to be basically cutting that off. We'll have our own little system for people who are unable to use the app or computer, but we're probably going to phase it out shortly and get rid of the phone calls and make it only through the app and through the computer.
And the people that can't use those things.
She'll make an exception and that's a process for that.
That's a big communication thing. It's gonna have to go out to 705 people.
Yes.
So one of the things that came up, I've been a discussion, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but to phase out the calling passes. So if I don't take them, let they're $10 each and will show up on your bill. So that, most people that are doing that, right? I mean, 705 calls, right? So they're 5 minutes each. That's a number of hours that security is wasted doing calling passes. So wouldn't you want security doing something productive? So they're costing the security and POA money for not following the appropriate process. So, if you call in 3 times a month, you get, $15 or $30 bill at the end of the month. Could offset the cost. I think that's one way to keep the call and passes from happening. So I know that probably will be a little bit unpopular in some places, but we've said no call and passes for a long time, and 75 in a month is still a lot.
This would be a James question, but I don't know if we could charge somebody for that. I would assume no is the answer. You can't charge for security for the phone.
So if they say service and especially if it's provided for income member of the community. We'll look at it more, but because essentially all the is there any benefits? Maybe
And this is just as a case. We charge for other items that are additional to what we do. Whatever. See, this is not something that is approved item, actually. When people are doing it, just do it's approved. So, I don't know if I'm not passionate about this, but to me, to try to change behavior is hard. One way to do it is to think about it from the national data perspective. And if you can't get people to stop calling, that means we won't have to do it. This is the best idea.
Look at it again, but just, we're just gonna stop getting calls. And again, I don't think you can do it. It's gonna take that a couple months for people to get acclimated to it, but I think it's something serious. You just start, we can help you.
Yeah. The way it was supposed to be is that it's 1 week to leave it out versus cut their email was making it content.
There's a customer service issue there, one way or another. Going back to some of our survey feedback too.
Customer service, and we should happen over the phone.
Right. So I think there's a customer service piece of it there. But we have a process, as long as we do a good job of communicating, that process will be, let's see how that goes. All right. Anything else? Any other business to come before us? Right now. I'm not aware of anything. The only other question I have will be the driving range. We'll have a opening date also. And so I think that at some point in time is going to come before us. Is that correct? Or discussion with them? All right.
Well, we did discuss the drive range, Laura and I talked to me a little bit. Since First State Bank's the only builder for that, and they're having a little difficulty coming out, they have their R3 day to maybe make at least the ceremony with them on that same day. Maybe we do another ceremony for everybody. Let's recognize First State Bank that day. Same for the driving range and the park.
Questions, comments, thoughts about that? Just okay. All right. Any other additional business for us? All right. Any comments for the members? I see you again, back there.
Debbie Lot 297. Just on the community cleanup day in November, just wanted to point out that excuse me, the Anglers Club will also be doing a lake cleanup again. So there will be some people out to see how many volunteers we can get to help us get the coves and the parks and the lake areas cleaned up. So we're helping them out too.
Hi, this is Jim Adams, about 666. Just a few things. Just seeing the survey presentation and having worked on the surveys before, and just Rich, how you presented it. It was great seeing that we have over 85% satisfaction in every category. That means there's 15% of people, or somewhere there, plus or minus, in some of those categories, not satisfied. But when you were showing the concerns and divides, you're kind of showing those equal to the positives. And just seeing the statistic that applies the concerns and may not should be equal weighting as the positives. So I know you maybe Captain Obvious there, but as y'all dig into that more, please. After that, is look at how many of those comments on the concerns really are. Another comment, Rich, on the golf course rule or the cart rule, you mentioned there was a change there, and which the change is fine, but I think you said that you took that to Warren Prime, which is a good place to go. You also said it went to the golf committee, and since last meeting when that came up, we had a golf committee meeting. Ronnie wasn't there, but he asked me to lead that meeting, and that did not come up at all. No, we didn't. That did not come up. We did not do a rule change on that. If you discussed it, you discussed it in a minority group on the side. And I brought this up to Nancy before, that oftentimes our committees get referenced as voting on something or doing something, and that is not the case. I know the history of some of these things, and I just encourage all you to lead committees to make sure you take votes from your committee and represent the group properly as you bring back your ideas, and not just get a couple of opinions. On the lake project, Tri-Marine, I think that's a great project to keep pursuing and study. I want to say related, it was mentioned there was a magnetic survey a few years ago, and I was on the board when that survey came through. And I just want to say to the public, know that if we dredged, that magnetic surveys shows statistics of the coves, about an average of 8 inches of silt in those main coves. It's less than a foot on average for sure. There are a few 2-foot mounds in those areas that are maybe of concern places. But the point being, a lot of people believe when they hear dredge, these coves, they think, oh, good, we're going to be able to move boats in and out of there real fast and all that. That's not what dredging is going to do. It's more along the lines of cleaning up the bottom of the lake so we get better water and those kind of things. So I think this direction of trying to marine sounds like a good step. Not all for dredging if that's what it takes, but I hope we do a dredge and then a test dredge and then come back and study and scout and things after years, just as you go further. And talk about communications and different things. I encourage Rich to put it wherever you can. Often anything we talk about in the past, people they're new with communicate, constant contact, or whatever they get it, assume in different ways. So you just have to put them in a lot of places. So. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jim. I do have a question for Jim. Do you remember when they did that survey for climatics, how deep they said the coves were originally? Like originally. Now, they're
I have seen maps, and maybe Rich has it, where it shows the original depths of things. I remember Lloyd Butt showed, when I first got on the board, he showed me a map, but I don't know where that map is. And all that was in the measurements on that study was just silt up. So, take off 8 inches of silt, you got the bottom of the lake.
You can infer what it is. The data we have from all these things, they'll say what the hard pan is. So I'll say what your water level is, 700 or 699, how much silt it is to the hard pan. So if I said that, if you consider the hard pan the original depth, you could infer what it was. What it was right after they, blew the water in the copper dam. I have no idea what it was then. You can infer what the hard pan is, how much silt, what the actual complete depth is.
And I forgot to make just one little announcement. This weekend is the MGA is hosting the Capers tournament, which is one of the biggest events we do out here besides probably 4th of July. We'll have over 100 guests coming in with spouses and those kinds of things. So a lot of visitors coming in. So Rich, anything we can do to spruce things up here last minute would be great. And just recognize you have a lot of visitors and welcome them and let's show them a good time there. So thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Hello, I'm Kim Davis, lot 611. I believe I am the first item on your executive private meeting. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm available for any questions, comments, or any documentation you may require as you review that.
You would be included in it.
Okay, I didn't know, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Bob Hine, lot 689. One suggestion is with our influence with the community is if we can, next to the Lake Kiowa utility district information, we have a box that simply says in bold letters that they are an independent organization and that the POE has really no authority over them. Because I run into this working with Dan on our long range planning and the customer mission statement. I never thought you can print something with such small font as they have on this thing with the utility district, but I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about that. And I have a next door neighbor, 2 of them, they're both doctors, highly educated. They still thought that the POA had influence and control over that. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. Anyone else?
I'm Brian Sanders, 1818. I'm new to Lake Kiowa, and my one thought is, how about the north entrance for access? Have you guys talked about that before? Okay, I don't know because I'm random, but that's the reason I'm asking. As far as emergency personnel and things of that nature, putting in a north gate would do a lot of good as far as I think the ease of access to Lake Kiowa. Again, I think that from what I've seen, you have plenty of security to divide it in half. Would probably be just fine, but half of the north gate and half of the south gate. Just an idea.
Thank you, sir.
Tina Bag, 719. I wanted to ask about the board of director workshop for the watercraft. It's like in 2 weeks, so you're not going to be able to kind of advertise this. I mean, I felt like you said you wanted membership to be involved in that as well, or is this just going to be a board of?
For everybody that wants to come.
So I was wondering if you were going to put that maybe on constant contact and kind of just summarize a little bit of what you are moving forward with so that people who are passionate about it have the opportunity to put that on their calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
And, I was up there today, so I apologize, Rich, if this has been taken care of. But, on occasion I go up to the store and I come through a little pathway to come through the front gate. And it just seems like that bush area there just does not look very nice. And so I didn't know if you were aware of that, but it could use some attention.
Any other comments? No?
The nominating committee is actively seeking candidates for next year's board of directors. So if you have anyone, please let someone on this team know. I run the nominating committee, so email address has been published and constant contact to send me an email with the potential candidate's name. Call me, text me, beat me, whatever. We need candidates, please.
Please.
I actually had a compliment on Dylan in regard to how he ran that meeting, that he did an excellent job. Just so you know, I'm sure you now want to put your name in, so. All right, anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion. Well, let's see what, let's have a break now until 7:35. Okay. And then at that time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.